Let's talk about something that most people don't really discuss openly: how work culture, friendship, and responsibility look completely different depending on where you are in the world. Today I'm comparing Japan and the Philippines, and I'm basing this on my own personal experience, on things I've observed growing up and living in the Philippines, and on real conversations I've had with my Japanese students over the years. So this is not textbook stuff. This is real life, and I think that makes it way more interesting. Let's start with Japan. If you've heard anything about Japanese work culture, you've probably heard that Japanese employees are incredibly hardworking. And from what my students tell me, that reputation is not exaggerated. The traditional expectation in Japan was that you join a company right after university and you stay with that company until you retire. That was the norm for decades. These days, more and more Japanese workers are switching companies and looking for better opportunities, which is actually a pretty big cultural shift. But the core work ethic, the dedication, the attention to detail, the almost perfectionist approach to doing things properly, that part hasn't really changed much. Now, here's something that surprised a lot of people when I first started talking about it with my students. In Japanese workplaces, it's very common for people to work side by side for years and still not really be close friends. Before the pandemic, going out for drinks after work, what's called nomikai in Japanese, was a very common thing. But even after those drinking sessions, many employees still didn't develop what you'd call a genuine friendship. They were colleagues. They were polite. They were professional. But there's often a real emotional distance between coworkers that most people outside Japan find hard to understand. So, if you're a foreigner working in Japan, please don't automatically assume that your Japanese coworkers will become your close friends just because you work together every day. That's not really how things tend to work there, and understanding that from the start saves you a lot of confusion and maybe even hurt feelings. Another thing that came up a lot in my conversations with Japanese students is meetings. Japanese work culture is very well known for having a lot of meetings. And I mean a lot. But here's the irony. Many of those meetings, according to my students themselves, are not especially productive. There's a concept in Japanese culture about consensus and group decision-making that means things move slowly and carefully, and meetings are part of that process. One of my students actually told me that sometimes they feel like they're just sitting there waiting for time to pass rather than actually getting things done. On top of that, in traditional Japanese offices, there's an unwritten rule that you don't leave the office while your boss is still there. Even if your actual work is finished, you stay. And what happens when you stay? Some employees end up sleeping at their desks because they've already finished everything, but they can't leave yet. And interestingly, napping at the workplace, even during working hours, is not seen as laziness in Japan. It's often viewed as a sign that you've been working so hard that your body just gave out. There's even a Japanese word for it, which literally means sleeping while present. It's a cultural thing that makes total sense once you understand the context. Now let's shift to the Philippines, and I'll be honest here because this is my own country and I love it, but I'm also not going to sugarcoat things. Filipino work culture is very different. One of the things that comes up immediately is punctuality, or sometimes the lack of it. Being a little late is unfortunately not rare in Filipino workplaces, and this is something that varies a lot depending on the company, the industry, and the individual. It's a generalization, and there are absolutely plenty of Filipinos who are very punctual and professional, but the stereotype exists for a reason, and it's worth acknowledging honestly. When it comes to overtime, the dynamic is very different from Japan. In the Philippines, if you're going to stay beyond your working hours, the company generally expects you to be productive during that extra time. Overtime pay is typically higher than regular pay, so companies don't want to be paying you extra money for you to just sit there doing nothing. There's a clear expectation that you're there to get something done. And when it comes to meetings, Filipino workplaces tend to set meetings with a specific goal in mind. One thing I noticed from my own experience is that some companies schedule meetings outside of regular working hours, which means those meetings are technically unpaid. It's a reality that many Filipino workers know too well. If the meeting happens during office hours, though, there's usually an understanding that it needs to be worth the time and the cost. Now, this is the part one find really fascinating: friendship at work. In the Philippines, friendships can start forming almost immediately. Even before you're officially hired, even during the interview process or training period, you can already start building real connections with the people around you. And because Filipinos tend to use their real names and complete details on social media, it's very easy to find people you've met and stay connected with them. You find yourself with high school friends, college friends, office mates, and community connections all overlapping in one big social web. There's this warmth and closeness that is genuinely one of the most beautiful things about Filipino culture. I've personally experienced moments where I reconnected with someone I hadn't seen in over 10 years through social media, and it felt like almost no time had passed at all. But like everything, this closeness has a flip side. Privacy becomes difficult. Family members and even distant relatives feel a sense of entitlement to comment on your life choices, your relationships, your decisions, and basically everything you post. When you're Filipino and active on social media, it can sometimes feel like being a low-key celebrity in your own extended family. Everyone has an opinion about what you're doing and how you're living. That level of openness can feel overwhelming, and it's one reason why some Filipinos are now becoming more careful about what they share online. In Japan, the approach to social media is almost the complete opposite. Many of my Japanese students have told me that they keep their social media very private. They follow a small number of people, they don't post much, and when they do post, it's usually photos or videos rather than personal opinions or emotional content. A lot of Japanese people maintain two separate accounts, one that uses their real identity and another anonymous account where they can freely express opinions, talk about their hobbies, discuss politics, or engage with fan communities without any social consequence. This separation between public identity and private expression is something deeply rooted in Japanese culture, where maintaining harmony and avoiding conflict in public is a core social value. This creates a very different environment when something goes wrong online. In Japan and South Korea, when someone becomes the target of online bullying or criticism, the people who support them often stay silent. They don't want to draw attention to themselves or get involved in conflict. The bullies, using anonymous accounts, can say whatever they want without being held accountable. It creates a situation where the negative voices are loud and the supportive voices are invisible, and that imbalance has had genuinely tragic consequences for a number of public figures in both countries. In the Philippines, the dynamic is usually different. When someone gets attacked online, there will almost always be a visible group of people who publicly defend them. Supporters use their real accounts and real names. The online fight is loud on both sides, and while that also comes with its own problems, at least the person being targeted can actually see who is standing with them. I want to be honest about something personal here. Even though I live in the Philippines, I spend most of my time in a very quiet kind of isolation. I talk to my students, I talk to store owners when I need to buy something, and I talk to my dogs. That's basically my social world. But because I teach students from Japan, Korea, and other countries, and because I stay connected through social media, I have this strange feeling that the world is actually very small. I hear about what's happening in Japanese offices and Korean households through first-hand conversations, and I see what's happening in my own country through social media, even without leaving my room. It makes you realize that regardless of the culture, regardless of the work style, and regardless of how open or private a society is, people everywhere are dealing with the same fundamental things. Work stress, loneliness, the desire to be understood, the need to connect, and the ongoing challenge of balancing who you are in public with who you really are in private. Whether you're a Japanese employee staying late at the office because your boss hasn't left yet, or a Filipino worker staying late because the overtime rate is worth it, or a solo content creator in a small room talking to a camera because it's the most genuine conversation you've had all day, we're all just trying to figure it out. And maybe understanding how different cultures handle work, friendship, and responsibility makes us a little more patient with each other, and a little more curious about why people do what they do. Thanks for watching. If you found this helpful or relatable, please subscribe to join my journey toward 2,000 videos. On this channel, I share unfiltered ESL stories, yes, even the toxic ones, alongside Japanese and Korean language tips, my plants, my pets, and the reality of solo living. If you'd like to support my work and help me build my retirement fund, you can buy a treat for my pets via the link in the description below. Every bit of support helps keep this channel independent and growing. See you in the next one.